It's so early, but early report cards since we're at the bye week for the Skins are 2-1, but they're kind of confusing at 2-1.
Yeah, because they won a game Sunday. Most people thought they'd lose, and they lost a game the week before. Most people thought they'd win. Look, I felt, as you guys know, I felt really strongly they made a great move when they picked up Alex Smith. I think he's going to have a very good year. I think he brings, as Doug Williams said to me, he brings a lot of stability to the locker room, which Kirk didn't because everybody knew he was leaving. Mm-hmm. It's not Kirk's fault, but that's just a fact of life. So I think Alex Smith is a positive. We've seen that the defense is, but again, after 3 games, it's impossible to make a judgment on any teams. I mean, do you think the Patriots are bad because they're 1-2? I don't. And do you think the Dolphins are going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC because they're 3-0? I don't. So I think it's too soon to make judgments, but I think there are some really positive signs. And I guess you guys heard the story about Doug Williams saying he worked Adrian Peterson out without permission from upstairs. And again, I go back to what I said. I think Doug's doing a hell of a job.
Well, that surprises me, and you keep alluding to this, and I just assume you know more about this than I do because you're
I better since I wrote a book.
Well, you're in contact with Doug, but I've always just assumed that it's almost more of a no disrespect to Doug, but they're not giving him the respect he deserves and giving him the power he deserves. They're certainly not giving him the title. And
Correct.
I figured that Bruce is still just pulling the strings, and he's almost ceremonial figure. Doug deserves it.
I think it's the other way around.
Yeah,
I really do. I mean,
yeah.
First of all, you're right. They're not giving him the respect he deserves because he should have general manager's title.
If he's doing the
I don't know why he doesn't, because it's Dan and Bruce. But when they made the decision, I mean, they had a big meeting on the Saturday the playoffs started to discuss the quarterback situation. You know, are we going to try to trade up to get one of these college guys, or who might we look at in the NFL? And Bruce was in the room to represent Snyder, but it was Doug and the scouts who had put everything together. Doug had seen every college quarterback. He'd looked at hours and hours of tape on the college guys, on Alex, they'd even talked, even Colin Kaepernick. But they felt, I mean, Colin was eliminated, and Doug told me, mostly because the way they run their offense and the kind of quarterback he is. But every possible name was thrown out. And by the end, the consensus among Doug and the scouts was, we want to go after Alex Smith. Bruce then took that to Dan Snyder because with the money involved, you can't make that move without the owner approving it. According to Doug, Dan was on board. They went after Alex Smith. You know the rest of the story.
Well, I like that. I just assumed that Doug was there to kind of give Bruce cover, but Bruce was still doing whatever.
I don't think you're wrong in this sense. I think one of the reasons they promoted Doug was because he's such a good guy. And they, after the whole debacle they had with their previous general manager and the way that ended, they needed something that was going to give them some good PR. And I think Doug did that right out of the gate.
He did, but I just assumed they didn't give him the duties, that Bruce is just still in there pulling all the strings. I'm glad to hear that he's not.
They say he and Schaefer now are doing a lot more of the stuff.
That's good.
Well, I mean, again, that's been one of the problems since Snyder took over was, do you let your football guys tell you who should be on the football team, or do you decide who you want on the football team because you like to hang out with them?
Right.
And the more and more they let Doug and his scouts, you're right, Schaefer and those other guys, make those decisions, the better off they'll ultimately be.
Yeah. All right. I like it.